Alrighty, looking pretty good here, so we'll go ahead and get started here. Um, Thanks for joining. Welcome back again. My name is Kevin Gilmore with the National Weather Service New Orleans Baton Rouge office located in Slidell, Louisiana. We're going to be doing another Facebook Live update here to discuss the latest with now potential Tropical Cyclone 3. Talk about maybe some of the impacts we'll be seeing here coming up, possibly beginning in as soon as the next 12 hours, really. We'll start to see some of these impacts moving north, impacting some of our area here starting on Friday, maybe as early Friday, going in through the rest of the day and even through parts of the weekend as well. So we're going to talk about everything you need to know about the what has changed since we did this last update yesterday, what has changed as far as watches, warnings, advisories, and if there's been any types of changes in the forecast. So we're going to go through everything really in detail here. Not too much in detail, but everything that you need to know as we go come up towards this weekend. So as always, for every Facebook Live, I always start with looking outside the window. So first we're going to start things off here with checking out the radar. And really right now, it's not too bad of an evening. Even today was not a bad day for a lot of people. We have bright blue skies. It's kind of hard to imagine that we actually have a tropical system getting closer towards our area with such dry conditions and ample sunshine, but it's on the way. The system is coming up from the central Gulf and will be heading towards the northern portions of the Gulf of Mexico here later tonight and tomorrow. But as you go towards, taking a look at radar real quick, we do have some coastal showers already at the very outer fringes of the low-level circulation, rotating from southeast to northwest. This is mainly impacting areas south of I-10-12 and will stay that way through the rest of the night. However, it's going to be early tomorrow we will start to see these impacts start to increase a little bit further to the north. Winds will pick up along the coastal areas of southeast Louisiana, and more widespread rain coverage will begin to increase all across the area early tomorrow and then lift north with time. But we'll show you more about that here in just one quick moment. But jumping over here on the satellite to show you where the latest position where potential Tropical Cyclone 3 is located. What you're looking at is an infrared satellite imagery here, basically centered right over the Gulf of Mexico. It's scanning. This is a geostationary satellite scanning the cloud top temperatures. As explained before, this is basically as you know that the temperatures get colder as you go further aloft in the atmosphere, and when you get these clouds to go way further up aloft in the atmosphere, they get colder. So we can actually be able to detect areas of convection or thunderstorm activity to give us an idea of where some of the more dense coverage of showers and thunderstorms is located. So with the Gulf of Mexico here, we got Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama Gulf Coast on the northern part of that. Really not that impressive looking at this type of satellite imagery. The center of circulation is very broad based out of the latest analysis from the National Hurricane Center. Somewhere about where I'm blinking my mouse, somewhere down in this region, actually from their discussion, it was an estimated location of where the center of circulation is. And we have a lot of thunderstorm activity that is displaced to the east and northeast of the center due to wind shear. So a lot of dry air coming in by some of these darker colors from the northwest, and the fact that there's wind shear. This is just not that organized of a system. And even as it continues to head north, there is still some steady strengthening expected. I'll show you the official forecast in a second, but we're not anticipating this to be a significant or extreme hurricane or anything like that. If anything, this will be generally a weak system. However, we can still get impacts from weak systems, and including flooding rain, some coastal flooding, gusty winds, and even isolated tornadoes, which all four of those remain a threat, especially for our area. So again, going back real quick to the satellite imagery, we're going to have to kind of watch it. There's a lot of meteorology going on in this to kind of explain it, but what we're seeing is that we're still seeing a relative stationary area of thunderstorms that's really located just to the northeast of the center, and it's really kind of just anchored to the northeast. And that's where we think that some of the deeper convection, as you can see here, will move north with time and then come across the northern Gulf Coast. So again, we'll talk more about that in details coming up. First, this is the latest 7 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center, showing you where that center track where I just showed you, and the future track expected of potential Tropical Cyclone 3. The storm system is expected to show steady signs of strengthening, possibly becoming a depression or a storm coming up towards Friday and into Saturday before it goes more towards the northeast with time, making landfall somewhere around the coastal southern Louisiana area. Now, as always, we do not want you to focus on the exact track, those exact dots, as impacts will be felt well away from the storm center, especially to the east of the center. You can see where those tropical storm warnings are already in effect. That goes all the way over to the to the Alabama-Florida line, out towards like Orange Beach around that area. So the impacts expand well to the east of the center of the storm. So don't become focused on that. Even with a system like this, the center of circulation is really not that tight, and we're not going to be seeing impacts directly near the center. It's actually going to be a little bit away from it. So we'll be talking about those more specifically. But first, what is a potential tropical cyclone? I know this is kind of some new terminology that's been used here recently. Basically, it's just a product that is issued. We denote this, or the National Hurricane Center denotes this system as a potential tropical cyclone before it becomes a tropical depression or a storm. This is for the National Weather Service to be able to issue a watch within 48 hours. So that's giving you about 48 hours of lead time, with potentially a warning with a full 36 hours of lead time. So as you just saw right there, we do have warnings in effect because this became a potential tropical cyclone. So this is a very good thing to help give you a lead time or a heads up, so we can put those warnings or watches out well ahead of the time before it even becomes a tropical depression. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's actually a good thing to give people a heads up way before the storm's expected to even form. So even though looking at the forecast here, it is expected to eventually form. So we got those warnings out right now. Now, as far as specific impacts go, we're still expecting forecast total rainfall to be the biggest deal with this system. Now, be aware that this is an average total precipitation map that you see, basically from starting right now all the way through early Tuesday, June 22nd. So this is an average total rainfall. What we're worried about is there may be locally higher amounts than that, especially east of the center. So we're talking about Baton Rouge and on east, and maybe a little bit more of a bullseye starting to form now, more for like areas from Houma up to the greater New Orleans metro area, up to coastal Mississippi. That could be maybe more of an axis of some of the heaviest rain potential that we could see. And be aware too that this could be actually a little bit of a sharper cutoff line potentially too. Just depending on how exactly the small scale details are resolved when the system makes landfall. We're just not that sure yet. But for right now, we want to kind of just message this as a blanket threat for flash flooding across the area. We could have flooded roadways, flash flood warnings. And of course, if flash flood warnings are put into effect, please, if you have to drive, do not drive across barricades. Now, because of just what I showed you there with some of those heavier rainfall amounts, we are under a flash flood watch now. This is new from yesterday. This is the message that heavy rain potential, and you see, without getting too specific here, this is for the whole area, as there could be some changes depending on where that center of circulation forms, moves, or makes landfall. So a lot can change and move around, but generally speaking, the entire area of southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi has that potential seeing flooding. Timing is going to be Friday through Sunday morning. So be aware of that as we go toward the day tomorrow. Just three fast flood facts. Just always remember, it only takes 6 inches of moving water that can knock a person down, and only 2 feet of moving water can sweep a vehicle away. So please take flash flooding seriously. If you see a water-covered road, don't even try it. It's not something to risk your lives and risk the lives of those coming out to rescue you. So don't even try it. We always like to say this: turn around, don't drown. Now, similarly to the flash flooding risk, we do have coastal flood warnings and advisories now in effect due to that strong southerly fetch of wind flow that's going to be coming on the east side of the system. So if the system's going to be making landfall somewhere just around to our west, be aware that this usually we see that counterclockwise flow or cyclonic flow around the center. You get that southerly fetch. We may have some minor coastal flood inundation issues. More specifically, it's going to be the areas you see in the dark green, where we have a coastal flood warning. That's where we may have the potential for inundation around 2 to 3 feet. And then you see some of that lime green color, that's the coastal flood advisory. That's more for like 1 to 2 feet inundation. That includes areas like Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas. The open coast is where we're going to be seeing some of the higher surge potential there. So as I've always messaged before, just make sure that if you live in a flood-prone area that typically sees flooding due to higher than normal tides, this is the type of event that may cause flooding for your area. So be aware of that. Move to higher ground if necessary. And if you have family and friends that live in areas that are usually susceptible to flooding due to higher than normal tides, please let them know. Give them a heads up anywhere along these vulnerable coastline locations due to potential coastal flood inundation. Now, I've been saying this a lot here with so many past Facebook Lives. that when we're talking about, when I said right there at the very beginning that it's very unlikely going to be a major hurricane. But you see that first point there to the top left. It doesn't take a major hurricane to cause major impacts for the area. As you see, we're under flash flood watch. We're going to have a lot of heavy rain across the area, and we're going to have other threats that we haven't even talked about just yet. So be aware of that. We've seen, even historically, going back to the early 2000s, if you remember Tropical Storm Allison, that was just a decaying system that came on shore as a tropical storm over Texas, and what was left of it came across coastal Louisiana and dumped copious amounts of heavy rainfall and caused significant flash flooding event for us. So it doesn't need to be a hurricane for this to be a significant event. So we want you to keep that in the back of your mind. Additionally, from the flash flooding and the coastal flooding that we may be seeing is also some gusty winds. We do have, like I mentioned before about the potential tropical cyclone, a tropical storm warning in effect for coastal areas and moving inland. So this is actually displaced a little bit further inland. This is going to be due to the potential for some tropical storm force wind gusts that may be more likely confined in any heavier rain bands or bands of heavier rain that are rotating around the center of the storm when it makes landfall. So be aware, maybe gusts around 35 to 45 miles per hour could be possible. Maybe some higher gusts as you get closer towards coastal southeast Louisiana. Again, high winds is not going to be a significant threat, but it is a threat. It's something definitely we're going to be messaging with the system. And just remember, the difference between a watch and a warning is typically when we're expecting it. The difference of expecting it either ahead of time or a little bit sooner than that. Since we're within that 36-hour window, we're talking now a tropical storm warning for those areas that I just showed. And even above all of that, we actually also have a risk for severe weather, specifically isolated weak tornadoes. We are under a marginal risk for severe weather on Friday. More particularly, this is going to be maybe late morning through the afternoon and overnight hours on Friday. And this is going to be along and south of I-10 and 12, including the greater New Orleans area and maybe Slidell and around the Baton Rouge and Hammond area. This is going to be due to some of those bands rotating around the center that could actually form some quick spin-up tornadoes. And also there could be some threats for waterspouts as well. This threat will actually continue to move north during the day on Saturday, but remain in place, though, through the day on Saturday. The same threat, we're talking about the risk for some weak, isolated tornadoes and any type of heavier rain bands that rotate around the center when the storm's making landfall across our area. So, as always, if you get a warning, be aware that take it seriously, okay? We're not here to just issue warnings for fun. We're doing this to save your life and protecting property. That is our mission with the National Weather Service. So always know where to go. Lowest floor, near the center, away from windows. You can't go wrong with remembering that. If you get that warning, just be aware that just depending on how the system develops, we may be under a tornado watch. We're just too early to tell. But be aware if there are warnings, please take those seriously. So moving back here, taking another look here at the 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time latest update from the National Hurricane Center. This is what we're expecting as far as a track goes. But again, pay attention to the eastern side of it where we could see actually more impacts way far away from the center of the storm. So with that, I'm actually going to jump over and show you what I've been showing you for several days now, some model guidance. Now, I don't like to show you the details of this because this is an analysis tool that us meteorologists here at the National Weather Service uses to produce a forecast. So what I'm showing you here is a model that we use that can predict the future of what the radar is going to look like using very complicated dynamic mathematical equations. So the computers do the hard work for us. We just interpret it and then produce the forecast from that. So going ahead with time, what we're going to be seeing as the system comes up, so you got, this is cornered on the southeast part of the United States. You can see Louisiana right there. This is around going towards daybreak on Friday. We've already got those bands that I just talked about that are moving up from the south towards the north. We're going to be watching those too. If maybe they may have some gustier winds. Could be maybe an isolated tornado potential, a water spout. But that threat won't get a little bit higher until we get towards maybe towards midday Friday, towards the afternoon. Which as we get a little bit closer, that's when we get that rain shield. A really large mass of rain will be moving north with time. And it will really be accompanying pretty much covering all of southeast Louisiana as we get towards the afternoon hours. And then continuing even through the evening and overnight hours as well. Then we'll see winds even picking up from there. So at any time at this point, as we're getting towards late Friday into Saturday, you can see all these the model's trying to depict individual storms to the east of the center. That's where we may have some water spouts and maybe even some tornadoes that we're going to have to watch. Could be even some water spouts coming on shore as tornadoes too. But gusty winds is going to be a threat. Locally heavy rainfall leading to potential for flash flooding. And also as mentioned before about the heavy rain, when I was talking about there could be a sharp cutoff line. Some of the model guidance that we've been looking at is showing that. That typically happens with these lopsided, disorganized tropical systems, which can happen sometimes when we have convection displaced so far on one side of the storm. We can sometimes just get a really sharp cutoff line of where we may have some very significant flash flooding, and some folks near the center or maybe even further to the west may not get much at all. A little bit early about calling that right now, especially in the forecast, as there could be some shifts with this convection. It can move a little bit west, which could kind of change that around. I just want to let people know that is a possibility, but still the message is that widespread flooding is a very significant potential with this system. We are under a slight to moderate risk of excessive rainfall with this system from the Weather Prediction Center, meaning that this is going to be a significant system for our area. Also, real quick, I wanted to show you too, we may see some influxes or some rises in some area rivers due to heavy rainfall. The River Forecast Center is now using 48 hours of quantitative precipitation forecasts in their river forecast. I'm going to, like I did last night, for if anyone joined last night and didn't see it, I'm going to copy and paste this. Sorry, you're seeing a little behind the scenes here. Paste this in the chat here real quick, in case you don't have that link, because I could say it, but no one will ever get it. It's a long hyperlink here. But I just copied it in the chat. If you don't have it, bookmark it, and always refer to it if you want to know the latest forecast for rivers nearest to your area. If you see here on the top tabs here, you can do river observations. That'll show you what the current stages of the rivers are. But if you hit river forecast right here, that'll show you the forecast. And all you got to do is find a river closest to your area or an area that you typically see flooding from. For example, the Pearl River near Bogalusa, and you get a graph that pops up that shows you the stages and the forecast then on out, including some of that precipitation from this tropical system. So this will help you with planning if you're expecting, if you're a little bit in an area that typically sees flooding from, or you live near a river and you see flooding from higher than normal rivers. Keep this tool always at all times, bookmark it, it's a great tool. So going back again, showing you the current satellite imagery, and we're going to kind of go back here too, just to sum up what we just discussed. Wanted to make this kind of short and sweet with some of the impacts that we're expecting from the system. Again, key points here, the system still remains rather disorganized, but that doesn't matter. We're still expecting the potential for impacts across the area, which include widespread flooding, higher than normal tides, some coastal inundation, some gusty winds, especially some heavier rain bands, and even some isolated tornadoes as well. The timing, again, is going to be increasing later tonight into early tomorrow morning from south to north, going across the entire area later Friday afternoon, Friday evening, especially Friday night. There may be some broken intervals at times where there may be some heavier rain, then the lighter rain, then heavier rain. But be aware that any time of these intervals, we may have some flooding issues with very heavy rainfall, very heavy tropical downpours across the area too. So that's going to continue all the way through Saturday as well. And then the system will try and get out of here towards Sunday, but we may still have some lingering rain bands across the day on Sunday. And then the rain chances even continue Monday and on Tuesday, but it turns more into kind of an afternoon pop-up summer thunderstorm rain chance issue as this tropical system, or what's left of the tropical system, by that time races way off towards the northeast. So be aware that the rain chances will continue even on Monday and on Tuesday. Maybe, just maybe, we'll try and dry out a little bit on Wednesday going into Thursday and Friday. Got our fingers crossed on that, especially after having to deal with this tropical system. We kind of get back into that routine hit or miss spotty shower storm chances Wednesday through Friday. So maybe we'll get the sun to come back after all this heavy rain comes across the area. So that's all I got here. I appreciate you paying attention and joining me here with this latest update. We just posted a whole bunch of graphics and information on Twitter. I'm going to be doing the same here on Facebook just shortly, and we'll be updating our webpage as well. So with this system, we want people to be up to date as fast as possible with latest changes, and that's our job here, is to provide this information to you so that you can have the most reliable information right in front of you at all times. So we will be posting updates when they come across. And again, we'll probably be doing another Facebook Live, maybe during the day tomorrow, but if not during the day tomorrow, we'll try and do one during the evening as well. Just be aware that that'll be at times where we're going to be pretty much within the time frame of the system getting close to making landfall, so we'll be really busy here. But we'll try and provide as many updates as we can to you. If we can't do a Facebook Live, just check our social media, NWS New Orleans for Twitter and Facebook, and even our YouTube. We'll be uploading this video on YouTube as well. So that's all I got here. Thanks very much for joining, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you, and take care.